Suikoden fans, rejoice! Perhaps one of the most anticipated indie game releases of the year is here at last. Today we are reviewing Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. But does this tribute to the classic JRPGs I grew up loving during the 90s still feel relevant today? Or have the stars of destiny burned out? Let's find out in our full review. Why not shape your own destiny and free yourselves from the shackles of mainstream gaming coverage? Head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames and you'll gain Discord access, early ad-free shows, shoutouts at the end of every single video we produce, a new podcast, and even free games depending on the tier you select. Your new indie gaming community is waiting for you.
Stand down. Please.
I cannot!
Rabbit and Bear Studios bring us Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, a game that would become one of the most successful Kickstarters of the modern era, led by the creative forces that brought us Konami's Suikoden series. This star-studded studio is comprised of illustrator Junko Kawano, whom helmed the Suikoden series from 2002 on, Junichi Murakami, director of Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, Osamu Kamuta, who was involved with some of the later Suikoden games, and the legendary Yoshitaka Murayama, creator of Suikoden and mastermind behind the best two games in the franchise. Well, that's my opinion anyways. Murayama worked as the scenario writer on Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, amongst other duties. Sadly though, Murayama would not live to see this release finally come to fruition, though his work was completed and remains fully intact. It's a shocking and sad end for a man that had such a massive impact on the JRPG genre. On a personal level, Suikoden 2 was a game that guided me through one of the most difficult chapters in my life. It was the right game at the right time, and for that, I'm eternally grateful to Mr. Murayama amongst everyone else involved in the project. All these years later, the impact of Suikoden remains an inspiration for games of today. Themes such as politics, drama, war, love, and hope are certainly not unheard of, nor were they revolutionary in the RPG scene during the later 90s, but what was revolutionary was the way Suikoden presented these themes. The frantic turn-based combat where 6 stars of destiny can be strategically placed remains one of my favorite battle systems even today. And yes, I'm willing to forgive Suikoden 4 for mucking the combat up a bit amongst other gaffes, but just about every series has an ugly duckling after all. Or how about the epic one-on-one duels, dramatic showdowns that truly made the player feel like they were an important part of a much larger conflict. Speaking of large, who could forget the massive tactical warfare scenarios chock full of drama? And the Stars of Destiny? Don't even get me started on how much I loved collecting them. I'm still not over the whole Gremio thing. If you know, you know. The Suikoden franchise has mostly remained dormant for over a decade now, with the last release being on the PSP back in 2012 and never officially seeing the light of day in North America. The last few entries that did see release in the United States didn't exactly instill confidence in the franchise's continued success. Suikoden Tactics was a decent little tactical experience that wasn't exactly what fans of the genre were looking for, and the DS release Tear Cries maybe went a step too far in a new direction.
Welcome to the ranks.
That's my Noah. One squeezy hug for you!
Much to the indignation of what has always been a loyal fanbase, Konami hadn't shown much interest in reviving Suikoden, though the announcement of the first 2 games receiving an HD remaster did spark both excitement and speculation that the once proud franchise could return at last. Thankfully, fans need not wait any longer, as Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is every bit the game you've been waiting for in everything but name. In Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, you'll be placed into the shoes of Noah, a brave young man that comes from humble beginnings. In order to test his mettle and discover more of the world of Alran, Noah decides to join the Watch, a small group comprised of a wolf-like warrior named Gar, the bubbly and entertaining Leon, who clearly has a massive crush on Noah, and the even-keeled Mio, who brings balance and levity to the party. The League and the Empire are working together, performing various tasks and attempting to maintain peace across the lands, but of course, things get messy, and you and your company quickly become embroiled in greater conflict. Runes are sought after by those who would abuse their power, with Noah and company being caught smack dab in the middle of the drama. It's a story full of twists, turns, and intrigue, with massive stakes. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is all about love, pain, loss, and hope. It is beautifully written and masterfully executed. While the opening moments may be a bit slow and it takes time for the greater conflict to reveal itself, once its hooks are dug in, there's no escaping its pull. Where the game truly shines, however, is in its character development and interactions. One would think it near impossible to bring life and personality to a cast of over 100 characters, yet Murayama and company make nearly every cast member, mandatory or not, unique and likable. Even more impressive, each character comes with enough of a backstory where they feel like they mean something to you, and to the larger struggle that the narrative so brilliantly illustrates. This is something many games struggle to achieve with even a cast of 5 or less. Characters are brought to life through voice acting with mixed results. The gruff Gar puts on his best Wolverine impression to surprising effect, while lead character Noah can sound a bit unsure of himself and lacks some confidence. This is somewhat fitting for the character, but the performance overall did leave a little bit to be desired. The same is true for many cast members, with some offering very compelling performances and others sounding a bit out of place. It all makes for kind of a mixed bag, which isn't all that unusual for this genre, but players at the least have the option of choosing Japanese voiceover or taking a more traditional route and turning the voice volume down entirely.
Oh, we're gonna die!
Get ready for trouble! I'm gonna squeeze every last drop of clotting blood out of you, you worthless lowlifes!
Being a JRPG, players can expect plenty of town exploration and turn-based combat, but much like Suikoden, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes will also change things up from time to time and features one-on-one duels alongside epic strategy war battles. A well-executed built-in map ensures that you won't be lost often, though there are plenty of times throughout the adventure where you'll be given the option to explore at free will, whether it be to grind out experience or to try to hunt down new optional party members. It was comforting to always be aware of the task at hand, while being free to go off and explore at my leisure depending on the story situation. Eiyuden Chronicle strikes great balance and always felt as if it was respecting my time, which admittedly, you'll need to offer up a great deal of that time if you hope to see it completed. Towns, much like the majority of Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, are brimming with charm and personality. Upgrade weaponry at the local smithy, purchase potions or armor, charms, and magical runes, and even find recruits for what eventually becomes your central hub, a massive castle that you'll build out the further you progress. Even better, certain recruits can fight for you in combat, while others offer support perks. Getting around the world of Eiyuden Chronicle is a breeze, with a classic overworld map that is simple enough to navigate, and an interesting but effective fast travel system that unlocks pretty late into the game, maybe after 12 hours or so. In fact, Eiyuden Chronicle simplifies just about everything for players that may not be well versed in JRPGs. Auto-equipment options are well designed, and the menus look great and they're easy to navigate too. Experimenting with different parties is also half the fun of Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, which brings me to the combat. Much like classic Suikoden games, encounters are random and players may bring up to 6 combatants into battle, though larger characters will take up multiple slots. Much like with equipment, the option for auto battle exists, which is surprisingly effective and perfect for when you want to veg out and rack up experience without the hassle. Auto battle even comes with its own menu for further customization. Auto battle not your thing though? Simply hit the fight command and off you go. Party members' health and attributes are listed to the right side of the screen, and the turn order will be at the top. Available commands are quite easy to understand, as you can perform a standard attack, use your equipped runes to cast different, more powerful attacks and magical spells, you can defend, use items, or flee if you're a coward. Certain party members can also team up together if they have an emotional connection between one another, and they'll perform some great-looking hero combos, which are a blast to discover and utilize. If one of your friends happens to be low on health, another party member may also shield them from further attacks until they recover, sacrificing themselves to protect a comrade. Aw, isn't that so sweet? Enemies will put up a pretty good fight in this title, so auto battle won't always be the solution. You'll need to balance item use, when to attack, and when to defend if you hope to survive. Bosses in particular can offer a steep but pretty fair challenge, with some of them having gimmicks. One example of this is having to attack a switch so that a massive boulder lands on your foes before it lands on you. The gimmicks were interesting and effective in adding another layer to the combat. Overall, this is a great combat system. It really relies on you balancing your runes, picking the right party members, positioning them in the correct places, and it's just a blast. You might wonder, how do I balance all these different characters? Well, you'll pick your favorites, and sometimes you're forced to use certain characters depending on the story situation, but it's also super easy to unequip and store things in the warehouse too, so it never was a headache or anything. I do have to point out one thing, just because it was part of my experience, performance, even though I believe this will be patched out in the final build that you enjoy. For as much as I enjoyed the combat system, random encounters themselves were at a very low rate during my time with the game. I wandered around some dungeons and the overworld wondering if I would ever see an enemy again at times. Thankfully, this appears to be a review build bug, like I said, and as I progressed, it seemed a hotfix was put in that improved this element of the game a bit. Hopefully you'll be running into enemies at a more balanced rate, as the developers are aware of the issue and a day one patch is going to come out. On the topic of dungeons though, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes features a good amount of them. Some are rather straightforward affairs and others offer simplistic puzzles to keep you on your toes. They aren't necessarily challenging, but I welcome the change of pace. As for the full-scale war strategy sections that I mentioned earlier, don't expect XCOM levels of depth here. These battles, much like the one-on-one duels, are more about the spectacle than anything else, offering very simplistic takes on the genres that they're paying tribute to. The same can be said for developing your headquarters, which basically boils down to finding recruits, usually easily identifiable and featuring portrait art, and then completing tasks to have them fight with you. These tasks range from simple fetch quests to even battling them one-on-one to prove your strength to them. Players can also upgrade headquarters further through lumber and other collectible items gathered. The simplicity of everything hums together in perfect harmony. Visually, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is quite striking with its 2.5D aesthetic. Character sprites are beautiful and portrait art jaw-dropping. Backdrops leave a little bit more to be desired, but are colorful and vibrant enough despite some low-res textures here or there. There were a few moments where the characters didn't always mesh perfectly with the background setting, but overall the effect works surprisingly well. The game also manages to impress in the audio department with powerful orchestrated compositions that left me reeling at times. This soundtrack is multi-layered and always seems to fit the mood of the game perfectly. A few graphical oddities did come up here or there, but these were also listed in the patch notes, so I can't harp on them too much. All told, the game looks and sounds really great, featuring outstanding 60 FPS performance on both the Steam Deck and the PC. Bear in mind that the Steam Deck version is not a locked 60 FPS, and there were some areas and larger battles where things dipped down into the 40s, but it really wasn't a big deal. For the most part, it ran quite well on the handheld. With this being such a massive adventure, it's lovely to have the option of taking it on the go. The only real annoyance that truly bothered me a bit was the occasional awkward camera angle where your view would be almost entirely obstructed by a tree or a house. The camera in dungeon areas is cinematic, but not always perfect, and that can feel a little bit jarring at times. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is a game that both feels like a relic of the past and still entirely relevant today, if that makes sense to you. If anything, it proved to me just how timeless and effective the Suikoden formula was. If you're going into this game expecting a modern take on the JRPG genre, you simply won't find that here. But what you will find is a timeless gameplay loop, memorable characters, a stunning narrative, fantastic combat system, brilliant visuals and audio, and just so much more. I haven't even touched on every little detail of this game, and I shouldn't, because you should go enjoy it. Murayama is an irreplaceable talent, and it will be hard to imagine what's next for this franchise without him. But for now, we should all celebrate his final and perhaps most impressive work, while congratulating the rest of the talented folks at Rabbit and Bear Studios. You were there for me in the darkest of times, and while I wish I could do more in return, I can at least use this platform and award this masterpiece the Golden Genie Lamp of approval.